everyone, and welcome to this review of the Wellington real estate data for the month of October 2021, and we'll compare it to same month a year ago and 2 years ago, but overall looking at the trends. So in summary, we have seen a big jump up in the price growth increase, the level of price growth. So price growth has indeed increased quite a bit in October compared to the 6 months previous, but all other indicators are pointing to a slower market. So it's interesting stuff. Let's get into the numbers. If we start with the median sale price, as indicated just before, we've seen a big jump in the median sale price. So 995,000 for October 2021 compared to October 2020, 785,000. It's a huge jump of 27%. And indeed, if you look at the blue results there, the blue bar chart, you can see the difference between just September and October is absolutely enormous. It's over 15%. So a clear breakaway from the trend we've been seeing since February of this year, a massive result. Is this actually indicative of underlying values increasing, or is it a one-off? Because of course the median price is influenced not just by underlying values, but it's influenced largely by the mix of properties being sold. If a whole lot of high value properties are being sold, then the median price does tend to get dragged upwards, which is not necessarily a measure of the underlying values increasing. That is a big jump though. So let's have a look at the Real Estate Institute of New Zealand house price index data, which really strips out the mix of properties being sold and looking at just the actual underlying values. So if we look at that, we can see 3% increase in the HPI for the month of October in the Wellington region. 3%, that's a big number for 1 month, and indeed the highest we've seen for a monthly result since February. 3 months to October, 5.1%, and over the last 12 months, 31.9%. These are big numbers again. Obviously, or not necessarily obviously, but it has been slower than it was right at the start of the year, but that is certainly an uptick. And if you look at at this graph here, you can see the blue line represents the monthly house price index growth, and the three month is represented by the orange line. So the monthly result, you can see it's been ticking along there, 0.5%, 1.5%, so on, since we came out of February, and then in October, big jump up to that 3% result, and the orange line you can see coming down from just under 12% for 3 months, which of course is absolutely astronomical, comes right down, and even that number has gone right back up again to about 5%. So look, is this a trend, or is this just a blip? Well, let's have a look at the other data to see if that gives us a hand or an indication as to whether this is going to continue. So the number of new listings, this obviously is the supply side of the equation. How many new listings have come to the market in the Wellington region? In October 2021, 876 versus 684 in October a year ago, and 757 in October 2 years ago. So compared to a year ago in October, that's a 28% increase. 28% more supply hit the market in Wellington in October 21 compared to October 2020, and 16% more than we saw hit the market in October 2019. Those are big jumps in terms of the amount of supply coming to the market. Good news for sellers. Even if we look at it on a 6 month average to 6 months to the Octobers, we're seeing more in the 6 months to October 2021 than we saw in 6 months to October 2020 and 2019. Not by much, but still more nonetheless. So there's no question we have been seeing more properties come to the market in recent times in Wellington than we have seen for a couple of years. On the sale volumes side of things, and this of course can be a proxy for the demand side of the equation, not always, because the number of sales will always be constrained by the number of listings available, but if the listings are there and they don't get sold, that is an indication that demand might be slowing. So what are we seeing? In October 2021, 700 sales in the Wellington region versus 797 in October a year ago, and 750 in October 2 years ago. So again, this is a clear trend. Fewer sales have taken place in October in the Wellington region compared to the same time a year ago and the same time 2 years ago. On a 6-month moving average basis, again, less on both counts. Again, not by as much. The results are smoothed out, but nonetheless, a very clear picture. There are fewer sales taking place in Wellington in October and in the months prior to October than we saw a year ago and 2 years ago. Again, consistent with what we saw in terms of a number of properties coming on. Good news for buyers, not as good news for sellers. These are indications that perhaps the market, if it isn't now, it will or likely to slow down. In terms of how long is it taking to sell a property, 30 days in October 2021 versus 26 in October 2020 and 29 in October 2019. Again, a consistent picture. It's taking longer to sell than a year ago, and longer, although not by much, than 2 years ago. All consistent stuff. Again, perhaps good news for buyers. What about inventory? In terms of the amount of stock we've got on the market as measured by a number of weeks worth of demand. So if no more properties came to the market and properties continued to sell at the same rate, how long would it take to sell everything on the market? In October 2021, 7 weeks. In October 2020, 6 weeks. And in October 2019, 6 weeks again. So, look, 7 weeks is still short. That's a low amount of inventory. The long-term average for Wellington region is 15 weeks. 7 weeks is way, way less than that. So the market is still undersupplied compared to what's normal. But compared to a year ago, not as undersupplied as it was. Compared to 2 years ago, not as undersupplied as it was. So is it possible we have seen the bottom, the dip in the curve, the bottom of the trough in terms of the amount of inventory in the Wellington region? Maybe, and only the future will tell, obviously. Again, if we look at the number of listings on Trade Me, we see a very similar picture. So obviously, if you have more properties coming to the market than we have seen previously, and fewer properties selling, then what happens is you get some sticking on the websites, and the number that are on the websites will swell. And that's exactly what we've been seeing over the last couple of months. So as of a few days ago, as we record this today, in November, we had 1,707 listings on Trade Me in the Wellington region. Go back a year ago, 1,307. That is a big difference. That's a 31% increase compared to 12 months ago. If we go back a year before that, 1,695. So that is almost identical. It's 1% more than we saw 2 years ago. So obviously the trough has come down and that's gone back up again. And again, on the 6-month moving average basis, 1,260 in the 6 months on average to November 2021 versus 1,310 in the same 6 months in November 20 and 1,634 in the same 6 months to November 2019. So we're still lower on the 6-month average basis than compared to a year ago or 2 years ago. This increase has been a phenomenon only really in the last couple of months, October and November. As you can see from the chart, the blue bar graph shows the monthly results, and you can see a big, steep increase in the amount of stock coming to the market on those websites. And indeed, the red line shows the 6-month moving average, which is increasing, being dragged up by the last couple of months' results, but obviously only much more slowly. So, is this finally some really good news for buyers? More choice out there. It certainly looks like that is what is starting to happen. So again, it'll be interesting to see if this continues in the next couple of months. So folks, in summary, we have seen a big jump in median price, and that is supported by an increased result in the month of October for the real estate house price index, which does support increasing prices, although not by nearly the same degree that the median price jumped by, but still increasing the rate of price growth in October. But everything else seems to point to a slowing market. We saw new listings, the amount coming to the market, up compared to 12 months ago and compared to 2 years ago. The number of sales taking place down compared to a year ago and 2 years ago. The duration to sell is taking longer than a year ago and 2 years ago. Inventory still low, but higher than it's been in the really low period that we saw between February and August. Website listings increasing rapidly in the last couple of months. So all these other indicators, apart from the price growth,
seem to be pointing to a slowing market. Hope that's interesting. If you need any specific advice about your place, feel free to reach out. It's Adam at Lowe Co. Thanks for checking in. See you next time.